And good morning, Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. It's Thursday. It is March the 9th, and we had quite the frost here in eastern North Carolina and our beautiful daffodils. I'm not sure how they're doing right now, but it is cold here. It went from beautiful 70 and 75 degree weather to now it is freezing cold. And I do have my space heater on the background. So if you hear a little bit of that, humming common tone, that is my space heater. I'm trying to stay warm. For all of you who are tuning in, thank you so much for being a part of Common Sense America. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you have not yet, go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe. There are a ton of new interviews there. We have many more coming your way. And I have noticed as I've been looking at the back end, our numbers are going up daily. And I am so proud of the work that we are doing collectively here at Common Sense America. Thanks to American Liberty News. Thank you to the Blue Network. Thank you to Turning Point USA. Thank you to Young Voices. There are so many different groups out there who are supporting this show, and I am so grateful. Thank you to Military Java Group, and thank you to all of the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New Yorkers, Floridians, Californians, Indiana. There are so many of you, North Carolinians, South Carolina. There are so many of you who are supporting this show. I am so grateful to your friendship, to your support, to your encouragement. And you know what? It gets me up every morning to keep going. But you know what? I took a step back this morning. I was talking to a friend of mine and it made me realize as I was encouraging her to make sure she takes care of herself and fills her cup with Jesus daily. And, health, body, family, everything that comes first before you can serve others. And, I took a step back and I said, wait a second, I'm running around with my head cut off this morning. And I realized, let me take a step back. Am I overdoing it? Am I overdoing it with everything? But no, I'm not. I just need to take a step back and fill my cup. And, special ways of filling your cup can be with Jesus first thing in the morning with that, that first cup of coffee. Other ways can be spending time with your family. Other ways can be calling a friend who you haven't talked to in a hot minute. And, collectively, I can say I have done that in the past couple hours. My husband and I just got back from Chapel Hill last night, and we went up there for a Turning Point USA event. And then we also got to see my goddaughter, and I am so proud of her. She is at the University of Chapel Hill. She is a political science and broadcast journalism concentration. She is in the reserves. I am just so proud of her. And she has just become this powerful young woman doing multiple internships. She's a junior, and she is just making things happen. And that's what I love to see in this next generation. And in case you did not see yesterday's interview with Simone, she is the chapter president for Turning Point USA at Chapel Hill. I did about a 10-minute interview with her while we were at Chapel Hill. And she is another extraordinary, young, vibrant American who cares about public policy, who cares about our families, who cares about our livelihoods. And I'm just so impressed by those who are coming around, our college students, to impact them, because they are the future leaders of our great country, the United States of America. They are our future leaders. They are going to be leading the forces, whether they serve in the military, whether they are in the reserves, whether they are in the halls of education, whether they are in the medical field. There are so many out there, and I'm just so proud to work and support and help Turning Point USA, but I'm also so proud and just so honored to know such great young American college students who believe still in God and our country and our families. So we have some great guests coming over here. We have at 9:15 a.m., we have Darius Mayfield joining our show this morning for this podcast here on this beautiful sunny Thursday morning. He is a former candidate for Congress from the great state of New Jersey. And he also has a new book coming out called Our Time to Run. So we're going to be talking with him about his new book. what inspired him to write this, the meaning behind the book, and his inspiration to really encourage those in local and state governments to run and get involved and be a part of that process. So we're going to be talking with him. I had the opportunity to have him on the show back when he was a candidate running for Congress from New Jersey. And I also had the opportunity to run into him at CPAC, which CPAC does that. You run into people, and it's very similar to a family reunion. And so he will be coming over at 9:15 this morning, live streaming here on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Rumble, and here on YouTube. And then if you miss any of my fun reels, I put a lot of those on Instagram. And I'll tell you, when we had the candidate for Virginia Senate and veteran Matt Strickland on the other day, I posted a reel on my Instagram account. It's at Eden Gordon Media. And that is receiving huge support. I am just so impressed by the support that is surrounding Matt Strickland. Also, that interview was featured on a Virginia platform news source, talking about how Matt Strickland's campaign is reaching higher levels than ever with regards to the donors and the fundraising. So our encouragement, our support, and our prayers are going to Matt Strickland and his campaign, along with Jonathan Emord. We did talk about Jonathan Emord in that conversation. He was running for United States Senate for the great state of Virginia. And Jonathan Emord brings similar values and integrity to, and wants to bring that to the United States Senate and to that office. So our support here at Common Sense America is for common sense candidates like Jonathan Emord, like Matt Strickland. And then in the latter half of the show, you're going to get to meet a young Republican from the great state of Virginia. She's originally from upstate New York. She was homeschooled, and she also attended Regent undergrad and master's program at Regent University in Virginia Beach, Virginia. You will be on the edge of your seat with Jessie. She is Jessie Blakely. You can follow her on Twitter. I will post all of their Twitter information so you can follow them at the end of each segment. But Jessie is a firecracker. This woman is a force to be reckoned with, and I am just so impressed by how she is leading Virginia and the young Republicans. And she's going to be talking to us about her candidacy and what she is doing for the great state of Virginia. So we have a lot of state topics, and also it's about 10 after 9 Eastern time here on the East Coast. We have tomorrow, I'm going to be popping it up here for you. I believe it uploaded. My friend, Barry Morgenstein, America's top headshot photographer. Go to barrymorgenstein.com. He will be joining us tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. He will be our primary segment for tomorrow. We are going to be talking about his upcoming event in April in Washington, D.C., as he's going to be doing headshots down there. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I signed up. I cannot wait to get my headshots done by Barry. He is a phenomenal human. You will get to meet his wife, Shelly, if you sign up and do these headshots. She is a beautiful soul. Absolutely adore her and thankful to get to know her as well. I've known Barry for years, and he has done some of the images for some of my clients, and true professional and a true patriot. That's what I can say about Barry, and a true friend. He's also affiliated with the Blue Network, which is a first responder, military, NYPD, a cop type of organization. My friend George Beck has been running that for years, and I met Barry because of George. And they all are at the front lines of conservative voices supporting those men and women in blue. And Barry, if you look at Barry Morgenstein's Facebook page, you will see images of those he has done for the Blue Network. It's also a magazine, and they also have different radio hosts coming out of New Jersey. So if you have not done so, if you are a veteran, if you are a retired first responder, if you're a retired cop, go check out Blue Network. They are a phenomenal group. You can find them on all social channels. They also have, like I said, have a magazine that comes out once a month. And I do believe they are featuring commentator and host, radio host and TV host, Greg Kelly, in this upcoming magazine, focusing on Greg Kelly's new book, focusing on service, focusing on being a cop, focusing on military service. Greg Kelly served in the United States Marine Corps. His father, as you may or may not know, was the commissioner of New York City, police commissioner of New York City for many, many years. And I had the honor to know his family. And it's just a powerful book. So going back to the Blue Network, they interviewed Greg Kelly, and Barry Morgenstein, going back to Barry yet again, full circle, made that powerful introduction. So I want you guys to make sure you tune in tomorrow to hear Barry's story, how he got started, some of the famous people he has worked with over time, and really focusing on service and giving back to our men and women in uniform and who have served. So you do not want to miss that episode. We are going to take just a 2-minute break, and then we will be right back. Thanks for joining Common Sense America. And we're back here at Common Sense America. I just had to take a quick break. Allergies are at their highest, even with the frost. So anyway, I'm so glad to be here with you on this Thursday morning. It is almost Friday. We have made it through this week. And I tell you what, having hubby with me on all of these travels has just been absolutely amazing. And just being able to be a part of inspiring and covering and working with such great leaders, great writers, great commentators, and what is next for our next generation. I will tell you, I do have an update. If you are following my commentary and my interviews with the parents and the concerned citizens of Onslow County, we will be doing some more interviews, and they will be coming tomorrow and also next week. We have a lot of updates, and I've had a lot of people privately message me saying, hey, the parents were not given the right to speak at the board meeting, the school board meeting the other night. What happened to freedom of speech? So we will be covering that. Also, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson has a press conference today from Raleigh focusing on UNC medicine and the woke indoctrination. He's going to be talking about that today. And also, I've had other parents reach out to me about what's happening in Onslow County. And Concerned Citizen Tyrus Kemp will be briefing me on what took place this weekend. There's a lot happening, and it's happening minute by minute at this point. So we will be bringing more. And I have noticed for the audience out there who are tuning in, the returning audience, the new audience, these topics of child abuse, rape, parental rights, freedom of speech, they're not going away. They're going to keep rearing their heads in the different public square aspects, whether you're in Maine, Florida, or here in North Carolina. So these conversations are very powerful and do need to be talked about. And though we are a podcast, we are not on a radio station. I will tell you, the live stream that we have been posting, the interviews that we have done with the parents and collectively with Tyrus Kemp are way over 1,000 at this point. And we have parents privately messaging us and parents publicly messaging us. And one on YouTube wrote me the other day, and she would like to come to the show and share her story about how her daughter was raped, and also about how her son was abused in their school in Onslow County. So more stories are coming to the forefront. And, I applaud the parents for wanting to stand up. Parental rights is very important. And I also want to encourage parents out there. If you have not done so, go over to Independent Women's Forum. They have an education and policy piece, and they have chapters around the nation, and they are helping parents with parental rights and navigating what is happening in and around the schools around the nation. So I encourage the parents who are tuning in to go over to Independent Women's Forum. I met with one of their staff members while at CPAC, and she had highly recommended checking out their site because it is specific. They have a specific space for the education reform and what is happening with parental rights around the nation. So I want to just encourage you in that forefront, and also know we are not going away. We're not going to stop talking about this. We are not going to let evil reign. Our voices need to be heard for the sake of these children. Also, I also mentioned yesterday, Holly K. Dunn. She is the author of Soul Survivor. She is a very dear friend of mine. Also, she has a nonprofit in Indiana. Yes, it's in Indiana, but I want you to check it out. It's called Holly's House, and it's focused on working with those who have been victims of heinous crimes, similar to what we are talking about here at Common Sense America. And, I'm not trying to bring doom and gloom to you this morning or any other morning, but these conversations tend to be put to the wayside because, it's now just the norm. But it shouldn't be the norm. It really shouldn't. What's happening to a child, and a child being a victim of a heinous crime, should not be the norm. What shouldn't be the norm is a child who has become a perpetrator and allowing them to get away with it. That shouldn't be the norm either. So what are we doing about it? Well, I'll tell you what we're doing here at Common Sense America. I am grateful to be able to have the voice to talk about those issues. I am grateful to be able to, for such a time as this, we're called. And if we know something, we need to speak up. We don't need to be bypassing it because it's not in our community or in our backyard. If we are aware of something, of a heinous crime happening to a child, we need to speak out about it. So as I progress into this new segment with Darius Mayfield, who was a former candidate for New Jersey's congressional seats, and also who's the new author of Our Time to Run, he is going to bring up some very powerful points as well that transcends into what we can do as everyday Americans, and where our voices can be heard, and where we can fight back on issues like we just talked about. So I am so honored to welcome back to the show Darius Mayfield. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Eden. I'm well, and yourself?
Oh, I'm good. I'm so glad to have you back. It was so good to see you at CPAC last week. How did that go for you?
I was just about to say, I feel like I haven't seen you in years.
I know. It's like a family reunion when you go to CPAC or events like that.
Yeah, it went well. I didn't spend, as much time as I usually do at the actual CPAC. And part of that reason, the main reason, was because we were actually out there filming videos for this new masterclass / e-workbook coming out called Our Time to Run. So we were doing a lot of that work. We got all of it done. So I'm happy about that.
Oh, good. Well, let's go right to it. So talk about Our Time to Run. I had the asset set up there so people could see the cover of the book, but talk to us about that.
Yeah, me and my partners created a company called Be American shortly after the 2022 election. I always get confused with the dates, but yes, 2022 election. And basically, we have a lot of things going. We have the book coming under Be American. We started a foundation called the Darius Mayfield Foundation, focusing on education and closing the transportation gap. And we got a lot of other things going. But with the book, that's the closest thing to being completed. We're looking at that coming out within the next few weeks, sometime in the month of March. We're just wrapping some things up right now. We will have pre-sales going live pretty soon, which will give people access to the actual masterclass and book for half the price of what it would normally cost. Okay. But basically, As we know, as most people know, the first time I ever voted in my life was in 2016, in the
Oh,
presidential election, first time. And I think a lot of people got inspired around that time. Since 2016, you've seen a lot of regular, everyday Americans asking a lot of questions as to how they get involved, how they run for office, what
yeah.
they do. It's probably the most common thing I've ever heard. People just asking, what are the steps to take? What do I do? People that want to run for school board, city council, mayor, even Congress, state assembly, things of that sort. So we thought to ourselves, well, we have all these people asking, why don't we actually give them an answer, and why don't we help them out? So basically what this will be is a master class on how to run for office, no matter if it's a local office like your school board office, or if it's a federal national office like Congress. And basically we will go through different steps, different modules, different chapters to show you everything from who you should hire, how you should go about hiring them, what type of consultants you need, looking at the data and analyzing the data to figure out, what you need to do to figure out, how to bring success to the campaign, everything, touching on fundraising, everything. And the great thing about it is it's interactive. So we will continue to be adding on to this book as well. So we'll start to dive deeper and deeper as you have your subscription over the months, where we'll start drilling into things like FEC rules for different states and how they affect different states, so you know exactly where to go to look up the information for your state and what you need to know as far as FEC rules. That won't be in the first iteration of the masterclass and book, but as we move on, those will be add-ons that people will have access to. But we'll have a masterclass once a week with your subscription that people will be able to go to, as well as private communities on places like Facebook and different things where we can all interact. We can ask questions and do such things. And then we'll do one live Zoom call per month to start off with all of our subscribers if they want to join, where they'll be able to ask us questions, talk, everything. So it's just going to really be a masterclass and just really showing everyday regular Americans what they need to do and how to run for office.
That's the everyday Americans. That's exactly it. Because I was just talking about this ongoing child abuse issue that is happening in the neighboring county to where I live, and parental rights and what is happening there. And you have everyday Americans who just want to put food on their table and make sure their kids are educated and make sure they're keeping their head above water. And then their child comes home and says, "Mommy, I was fondled in the bathroom." And so it's like you have these parents who are saying, okay, we are everyday Americans. What do we do with that? And it rises, people are rising to say, okay, I'm ready to run. I'm ready to take, this school board back. I'm ready to take back this General Assembly. I was one of those candidates. I said, I'm ready to run. I've always worked on campaigns behind the scenes. I'm saying, I'm sick of the VA. I'm ready to run and take out the VA and change things over there. So you have so many everyday Americans who are passionate, who are convicted about what is happening in their backyards, whether it's Jersey, whether it's North Carolina, or whether it's California. So I applaud you for doing that. What really was that turning point for you after the election for you? Was it saying, okay, I have this great template, I'm ready to get started, and this is something I want to inspire everyday Americans to say they can do it too? What was that turning point for you?
Yeah, I think it started even before that. Probably when again in 2016, when I voted for the first time, and then just seeing, the next few years, kind of how that progressed. One of the things I often like to refer to, people don't remember, I think it was 2018 when we had the first midterm elections during Donald Trump's presidency. And I remember a headline saying the most amount of teachers and scientists are running for office ever, right? And in a lot of cases, these were people that were maybe, didn't necessarily like the current administration, but it inspired people to get out and do something. So when I saw that, I knew something like that was coming with the election of Donald Trump. Whether you loved him or you hated him, he was going to inspire you to do something because he's that magnetic of a figure. Right. So when I saw that, I'm like, this is what I've been, dreaming of. This is what I seen coming. So how do we help people like that? Because again, as I was on the trail, going to different events, doing things, I would have people ask me all the time, how do I get started in politics? A lot of people, especially as you were talking about school boards and things of that sort. What a lot of people don't realize is here in New Jersey, in 2021, when we had our gubernatorial races and everything,
Right.
New Jersey Republicans, and even though this is not a partisan, this is not a partisan program. We don't care who you are. We have Democratic quotes in there. I have Democrats that have done some of the videos as well as Republicans. So this is for everybody, right? If you want to run. But in 2021, here in New Jersey, Republicans flipped over 100 local seats here, school boards, city councils, things of that sort. And during that time, there was just so many people that just asked, what do we do? How do we run? We could have even flipped more seats if some of those people had the answers to those questions, because they were motivated like yourself and like I was to do it. They just didn't know how to start and what to do. And to be honest with you, once you start kind of diving into it a little bit, it's really not that hard of a process as long as you know what to do and where to go to actually look. So I think during that time, during the Trump administration, during my time running, I just started getting the questions so much and just seeing so many people that were motivated, just regular, everyday people, stay-at-home moms, fathers, uncles, everybody that were so motivated. We're like, and the interesting thing, what we found out for this, there's nothing out there like this. There's no book that you can go get that shows people how to run for office. You can Google a couple of things and people will give you little tidbits here and there, but there's no comprehensive book or no comprehensive masterclass. So we'll literally be the first ones doing this.
Oh, wow. Well, let me ask you this. So with this masterclass, what are the steps? You said it's coming out next month?
Yeah, later this month.
Later this month. And where can people buy the book and how do they subscribe? What's that whole process?
So everything is being built in the back end right now. We actually just started getting our drafts for the website and the sales tunnel. It looks absolutely great, so professional. But you'll be able to go to www.ourtimetorun.com, and that's where you'll be able to subscribe, pre-order, everything right there on that website once it's actually launched.
And then talk to me about your foundation. I heard your interview with Ed Henry when you were at CPAC, and I heard you talk about the foundation focus on education. What does that look like? That really encouraged me, and I was excited to hear, when is that officially launching and what kind of education tools are you providing?
Yeah, so we've already launched. We have about a 10, 11 person board already that we're, building up. We've been conducting our monthly meetings. So we're still very much just getting things together behind the scenes, collecting bios, making sure we vote the right people in, make sure we get our agenda straight. But the mission of the Darius Mayfield Foundation is to bring quality education and school choice to diverse American communities while lowering the transportation gap in underserved rural and urban cities across America. So, one of the things I saw when walking the streets of places like Trenton, New Jersey, one of the first Republicans to really get out there and engage minority Democrat, mostly Democrat voters, because I understood that they were sick of everything going on. A lot of times we think these people are just putting themselves in these positions, but just think about it. Nobody really wants to live in the conditions that a lot of these people live in. And it's because, they don't have the right people being voted into office, and the people that are there in office are so corrupt that they don't care about their needs. And the people that live in these areas understand these things. So when we went out there to actually start knocking on doors and talking to them, they became very frank and very honest with us. And one of the issues that they highlighted, multiple parents, was the fact that in Trenton, New Jersey, if you live within 2 miles of your school, they don't provide you a school bus, right? So we know in a place like Trenton, New Jersey, that could be pretty detrimental for any child, because now they're forced to walk a couple miles of school when you're walking through violent, sometimes drug-infested areas. So you're getting recruited by this one, while other kids just never even leave the house to go because it's such a haul, and they just don't make it to school. They don't want to walk through those conditions, whatever it is, because whether it's because of the weather, whether it's because of what's going on out there, whatever it is. So it really hires the absentee rates in schools like that. It really starts to, dissuade kids from even attempting to get a quality education. It puts a lot of pressure on the parents who are trying to do their best and sometimes work 2, 3 jobs at a time, and they just can't keep their hands on everything, like making sure their kids get to school. So what we wanted to do was come up with solutions to try and help these problems. And again, it's not just in urban areas like Trenton, but we also identified these things in underserved rural areas, because a lot of people often leave out the rural areas, which happen in a lot of cases to be just as poor as some of these urban areas. In places like Morristown, New Jersey, we found out from our board members, Barbara, who's a school bus driver out there, that they have the same problem in Morristown, New Jersey. And in fact, their kids have to walk along these crowded highways, these railroad tracks where there's a bunch of nowadays, a lot of illegal immigrants sitting on the side of the road waiting for people to pick them up for construction jobs, and you got kids walking through this stuff. So basically what we decided to do is come up with a solution. Our first solution being to obviously shed a light on the issue. So what we're trying to do right now is secure funding to shoot a documentary where we go into some of these areas like the Trentons, like the Morristowns, and put a documentary together by interviewing school board members, students, teachers, Board of Education members, to really just put something together to actually shed a light on this whole thing. And the second thing being for us to actually create some type of a ride sharing app, which we are actively working on right now. In the last month, we've met with about 10 or 11 different congressmen and women and their teams in DC. The last one just being last week, we had 4 meetings with people like Van Drew, Tom Keene, Congressman D'Esposito. So we've been sitting down with their teams, and they're actually actively engaged with us. We've actually got them to all pledge their support, to write letters of support for us, to secure grants for this issue and different things of that sort. In 2 weeks, we got another 5 or 6 meetings. So we're on the Hill. We're meeting with congressmen and women. And basically, we're looking to create a app that we partner with some local ride sharing companies, where we can create an app to give to parents in these communities, where their kids can just sign onto this app and receive free rides to and from school every single day. So there's a lot more obviously that goes into it. It's a little bit more intricate than that. But we're literally just trying to find solutions for this problem, which is a big problem in certain areas. And on the education side, as you guys know, I'm a big proponent of school choice. Big proponent of making sure kids get the education that they deserve. So we got a couple of things coming up right now. We're actually partnering with a bunch of the students in one of the charter schools in Trenton right now to bring a dance competition to Trenton, New Jersey, a dance competition fundraiser soon. So we got a lot of exciting stuff that we're lined up. So the main objective is just to go into these communities that have been forgotten by a lot of our elected officials, and really show them that you don't always need government to solve your problems, that we're going to come in and we're going to help you guys think of creative solutions to make sure we can come in and get some of these problems taken care of, like making sure we can fund people to go to private schools, charter schools, and making sure we can help close that transportation gap.
Oh, wow. I have so many ideas in my head right now. My wheels are spinning because I'm so excited about what you're doing.
We might need to bring you on the board.
I would love to. I would love to, because I'm sitting here thinking about what my friends are doing in Brooklyn for some of the schools. And I'm also sitting here thinking about the fact that there are the Bowery mission in New York really focuses on homeless kids and making sure those kids are taken care of in so many different forms and fashions. And you were right across the bridge to be able to do that. And then I sit here and think about the Blue Network and Barbara from Harlem and BB Reed, and they live in Trenton. BB lives in Trenton, not to give away too much, but that she knows she resonates with what you have said. And I've heard her talk about that on her show, on our Urban Story.
Barbara and BB. Shout out to Barbara and BB. I love those women.
They are 2 of my favorite gal pals. Oh my goodness. Whether I get to see them or not, it's kind of like, every couple months or something like that. But oh my word, those women, they are women of faith. They love Jesus so much, but they love our country and they want to save it. And I
gave her nickname, right?
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah, the godmother of conservatism. I gave her that
I did not know that. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, she is a gift to all of us. She is a gift from God for sure. So yes, let me know. We'll talk offline, because I would love I'd love to make some connections and things like that. One thing you had mentioned about the fact that these kids are unable they have to walk to get to school, depending on whatever areas they're in. And you had talked about the immigrants waiting for their rides, their jobs. I'm sitting here thinking about the drugs. I'm sitting here thinking about fentanyl and the issues that we have with the opioid addiction and all of that, and the human trafficking piece. So you're not only just protecting them from, you're trying to get them to get their education, but there's so many other major mainstream issues that are happening there, literally in our nation's backyard. You don't have to be in Texas to be considered a border state with everything that's happening in New York, New Jersey. So
I mean, you're absolutely right, and I think in those situations, especially the people on the bad side of things, so like the cartels, the drug dealers, the people that
Yep.
are violent, they're even more emboldened now, especially under administration like this, where they're calling to defund police when our borders being overrun. I mean, we saw what just happened in Mexico. You just had 4 Americans, 3 Americans get killed, and just crossing the border. So we're in very dangerous times right now, and those dangerous times, absolutely, relate to the communities that we're talking about, like the Trenton, New Jersey's, because as they get more emboldened, the drug dealers in place and people in places like that, the kids suffer more and more. It might sound cliche, but it's a real thing when kids are walking to school, walking throughout these communities, and they start getting recruited, by these gangs, by these cartels and things of that sort. And with things getting so heightened now and being so much worse, and with quality of education decreasing, these things are becoming more and more familiar to kids in these areas. And you have more and more people dropping off, not getting a quality education, and starting to put their foot into the streets and get involved in the wrong things. And as quality of education decreases more, you're just going to have more and more instances of this. And if you have kids that literally can't get rides to school for whatever reason, because they can't get a bus, their parents are at work, or their parents or just don't have a car in these communities, you're going to have more and more kids being recruited, more and more kids trying to walk to school and just falling into the traps and falling into the real things, and more of these other people just being emboldened to really just keep coming after these kids as they are, to bring them over to those sides and have them doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So it really is a problem, something that's probably not highlighted enough. And I understand that, because not everybody comes from those conditions, not everybody lives in those conditions. I actually do. I come from New Brunswick, New Jersey. I come from the hood. I grew up in these conditions, so I can identify with it. I've seen it. Somebody asked me yesterday, had I ever been chased with a gun? I got chased with a gun throughout my apartments at like 9 or 10 years old. I think about it now, and I think about what had happened. I didn't think too much of it. It was just kind of normal for us. But thinking back on it, those things aren't normal, and no kid should have to go through those things. But unfortunately, nowadays, it's even more common than when it was back then, because of the policies of our elected leaders, because of the horrible job they've done with maintaining these communities and really giving people the resources that they deserve. And one of the things that really just baffles me sometimes is I talk about things like school choice, right? Which I'm a big proponent for. You always see, Democrats stand up against that immediately. But when you go into these actual areas and talk to those parents that actually vote for a lot of these Democratic politicians, they want it. They understand. They're tired of waiting. A Democrat solution is always, well, they're trying to take money out of the public school system. Well, what are you doing to make sure we're not losing generation after generation after generation after generation? Because that's what's happening every single year. So people like myself are tired of the talk. We're tired of seeing those things. And unless you guys come up with something better, why don't we just give these parents the school choice that they actually deserve, so that they can at least start giving some of their kids the educational opportunity that they deserve? Exactly.
Well, I have one final question for you. You going to run again?
We've actually already refiled.
Did you?
They've already started email fundraising for me, but I'll be jumping on calls within the next month or so. So we're definitely going to get back into that this year. I'm definitely going to focus more on the foundation and the business things that we have, so I can be set for next year. But yes, I will be back in 2024, and I will be running for Congress in the 12th district again.
Oh, fabulous. I can't wait to support you there too. I was thinking about going to a seat at the table at the end of April with Elizabeth and Common Sense Club. Will you be there presenting your book as well?
Possibly. I keep hearing about that. You're like the third or fourth person in just last week. Ed Durr hit me up. Senator Ed Durr hit me up. He's like, "Are you going?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." I mean, I wasn't able to make it last week. Last year, I think I was away or something. But I mean, I would definitely love. I love what they're doing. I know that's the New Jersey version of CPAC, so I'm very proud of them for sticking with it, because people start things sometimes and they don't, keep going. So to see that it's coming back, to see that their dish is strong, I'm very happy and very proud about that. And yes, you guys should probably see me there.
Good. Well, Darius Mayfield, author of Our Time to Run, coming out later this month. Make sure you check it out. And was previously a candidate for Congress from New Jersey and is now refiled. And I cannot wait to see you across that finish line. I look forward to seeing you again. Many blessings to you, my friend. Thank you for what you're doing.
Listen, not black, not white American. We're all just American. It's our time to run. We're going to get it.
It is our time to run. And I think you've inspired me because I do want to get back in. It's just a matter of where.
Absolutely. And you should. And maybe you'll pick up our book too and to give you some, tips on how to just even push it further. So you definitely have my support. I appreciate you having me on. I know you're a great common sense patriot. So thank you for everything you do. And don't slow down at all. Let's just keep pushing the envelope because it is our time. And I truly and honestly believe that.
For such a time as this, let's do it. So
yes,
thank you, my friend. I will see you soon. God bless you.
God bless. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Eden.
And for all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. And I tell you what, we have a great new feature and new guest coming right over to the show. And I have her name going across, and you can go to Twitter and follow her. Her name is Jessie Blakely, and she is the chairman of the Young Republican Federation of Virginia. And yes, she is a candidate for Young Republican National Chair. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Eden. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Oh, I love what you have behind you. You're getting you are set and ready. Oh my goodness. So great to have you here at Common Sense America. Thank you for being a new feature on this podcast. And as you heard, you just heard a little bit of my end of my commentary with Jersey, one of my favorite states. And so glad to have you. Jessie, tell us just a little bit about yourself. I gave the audience a fun couple facts that you are from upstate, that you were homeschooled, and that you attended Regent undergrad and your master's program. And those are three fun things I absolutely just love about you. So welcome.
Well, thank you. And, it's nice to be on right after New Jersey. We have a lot of kinship to them in Virginia because we both have off year elections. And so this year I'm gearing up for our state house and Senate elections here in Virginia. It's one of my favorite things about being involved in the Young Republicans is helping people become trained to run for office, get excited to run for office, and then also support other great candidates, whether they're Young Republicans or not.
Mm-hmm.
So
how did you get into it, though? How did you come from upstate New York, which is a completely different type of environment and beast in itself, similar to Jersey in many ways? How did Virginia come into the scope? I mean, how did that all happen?
Well, so I moved to Virginia to go to Regent University in 2014, and I was excited to be moving to a purple state from a deep blue state. Now, unbeknownst to me, Virginia stopped being a purple state for quite a long time right after I moved there. So it was a tough couple of years to get involved. I really wanted to be involved in politics, but I didn't grow up in a particularly political family. I didn't really have any idea how the process worked in terms of campaigns, elections, even lobbying and legislation, grassroots efforts like that. Yeah. So when I came to Virginia, I really just wanted to dive in head first and learn everything about the process. And because of that, I wound up really enjoying my work with the Republican Party and my work with volunteers across Virginia. And so that's where I've decided to plug in.
Oh, wow. That's fabulous. So talk to us about your current role now, and that you are a candidate now. So what are you doing as the current role? And one thing that does stand out to me in our conversation is that you are looking for powerful, young, conservative candidates. So talk to me more about that role, and then let's talk about your upcoming candidacy and what that looks like.
Absolutely. So as the state chair for the Virginia Young Republicans, I have a couple different roles. The first one is that I represent my Young Republican Federation and all of our members to the Republican Party of Virginia. And so we have a central committee that makes a lot of decisions about how Republicans invest strategically in Virginia. And one of my jobs is to be a part of that conversation on behalf of younger voters and to make sure that they're prioritized. Mm-hmm. The second big job I have is club development and membership development. Mm-hmm. And so that includes starting new chapters across Virginia, helping support their mission, making sure that they have resources to train their members to be really effective, and putting together statewide initiatives. We do regular deployments, which are weekends where volunteers from all over Virginia and sometimes all over the country will go to a very, very competitive district in Virginia. For instance, we went to Jen Kiggins, we went to Yesley Vega, we went to Hun Cow in Virginia. Yes. They'll go knock thousands of doors in a weekend and just kind of blitz it. So part of my role is to organize that type of event. Also for candidate training or candidate recruitment, I've helped to organize those initiatives that we've done to really try to fill out all of the seats that we can for Republicans.
Yes.
And then lastly, and then this ties into the next question, I guess.
Yes.
My role is to represent Virginia to the Young Republican National Federation.
That's
so. I work with a national committee man and committee woman who are excellent. And we are similar to the regular RNC, the 168, which I know a lot of people have probably heard about recently with the race between Ron McDaniel and Harmeet Gillen. So we have a really similar role to what I guess the big party, as you might call it. So trying to make sure that Virginia gets support and resources from our national federation as well.
Talk to me a little bit about the presidential scope in the state of Virginia. You know, everybody's popping up, and we just had CPAC last week, and the Club for Growth was last week, and all these other groups are popping up with their different conventions, and, you know, early and now, and DeSantis is on his book tour, and, you know, Trump spoke at CPAC, and you have Haley out there, and you have other names being thrown in like Youngkin potentially, like Tim Scott, Pence. What are your thoughts from the Virginia standpoint as it pertains to all of these names hopping in? And I know Youngkin, like you told me on the phone, one and done as governor, until, you know, not consecutive. And I didn't know that. I did not know that until you had mentioned that to me. So talk to me about that. What will that look like for the state of Virginia, depending on who ends up, you know, if he does declare, or if he doesn't, you know, who are they kind of feeling like they want to push for, or is it kind of broken down the middle? Because I'm hearing that from a lot of people.
Yeah, well, certainly it's early. And I will say we love our governor in Virginia. We're very, very excited to have him. And for those outside of Virginia who don't know, the governor of Virginia actually only gets to serve one term consecutively. So he could not run for reelection. No governor can run for reelection in Virginia. So there is some question as to whether or not he'll consider it. I won't pretend to know the answer and what he's going to decide. In terms of our voters, I'd say there's right now still a bit of a split. I've heard different folks for different people. Certainly Trump and DeSantis seem to be polling nationally the highest. And I think that that's reflected in Virginia in the Republican base as well. However, I think there's a lot of folks here in Virginia that are waiting to see who else announces and how debates go and things like that. You know, one of the things that I would love to say about Virginia is that we're a confidently red state. But we're not. We're still very much a purple state. You know, we have 3 fantastic Republican statewide elected officials. We won control of our House of Delegates in 2021. But this year, all of our state House and Senate members are up for re-election. We could lose control of the legislature, or we could get a trifecta government for the first time in 10 years. So,
yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, I would love that too. And it's possible. It's going to be a very tough fight. But in terms of 2024, from the party side, one of the things that we're certainly confident of is that if we are able to make Virginia a trifecta state, I believe that Virginia will be a great candidate for investment for future political races. And that's what I'd love to see for my state.
No, that's fabulous. You know, when you had mentioned the trifecta, we had Matt Strickland on the other day, who's running for Virginia Senate. And he mentioned something very similar in regards to, we have got to keep all the houses. We've got to keep everything going for the Republican ticket. And I was very impressed with what he brings to the table, as well as Jonathan Emord, who's running for United States Senate for the state of Virginia. So you guys have a lot of hot elections coming up.
We do. And we have many Senate candidates who have already announced for 2024, which is great. You know, I appreciate that. I'm excited to see them all out campaigning this year. And again, I would love to kick Tim Kaine out and to take our Senate seat back as well. But we really need to prove our case that Virginia can be a red state this year if we want to see national investment from groups like Club for Growth or for any other group for that matter.
Yeah. Talk to me about, we have just about 5 minutes left, so I want to get a couple more public policy issues in with you. What are some of the issues that face the state of Virginia that are you more concerned about that really stand out to you? Is it education? Is it our veterans? Just to give you examples, what are, the top 3 things from the policy viewpoint for the state that need to really be talked about?
Yeah, so I think there's a few issues that need to be talked about. First of all, the governor laid forward when he campaigned some priorities in terms of cutting taxes: the gas tax, the grocery tax, the income tax for families, and those have not been able to be accomplished because of the Senate. We've been able to get some things done, but because we don't control the Senate, we're not able to make the same sort of impact on reducing taxes for everyday Virginians that we wish that we would have been able to. So that's something that's still in negotiation. This year, there's going to be more budget amendments. We're negotiating for even more tax cuts on top of what we were able to get last year.
Okay.
But it's going to be difficult, and we really need the Senate to be able to pass that.
Okay.
The second thing in Virginia, of course, is education.
Right.
We were the center of the whirlwind in 2021, where everyone heard the stories coming out of Loudoun County and Fairfax, and
Yep. I
that's
remember
very
that
much
well.
the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now we're in a phase where we're having to really root out all of that corruption, all of the cover-ups, figuring out exactly what has been done to our schools in Virginia, and begin the process of reversing it. That's something that the governor's administration has been working on. That's something that our legislators have been working on. It's something that our attorney general has been working on.
Yes.
And so we're very happy to have that team, but it is a lot of work to do, and it requires a lot of volunteers. I was speaking to a candidate the other day for state senate in Virginia. She's actually a school teacher in Fairfax County, and she's a conservative. And so it's really going to be about having a coalition between parents and our elected officials and our candidates to continue to work on that issue.
Yes. And what would be the third issue? You said the
Oh, yes. Sorry.
You're good.
So the third issue, I would say, and this is sort of I don't know, personal and a little bit wonky.
Sure.
But one of the things that a lot of Virginians don't know right now is that Virginia is signed up to be just as green and energy efficient as California. In fact, whatever California passes in terms of state-based Green New Deal policy, we actually, in our previous administration, we signed up to copy them. So that's something that kind of skips our legislature at this point. So right now, the governor and the legislature is working on making sure that that's no longer the case, that we're not tied to California's emission standards, electric vehicle standards, all of those things. And so this is important to me because when I look at this issue, this impacts our future very much as Virginians. This impacts the cost of living in the future. This impacts the cost of energy in the future. So all of these things and the ability for businesses to come here and see it as a long-term place to invest. So that's a priority for me this year, and I'd like to see that reversed.
What can the governor and the state legislature do to unturn that? What does that look like in layman's terms? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the governor has already signed some executive orders, although the governor in Virginia is relatively weak compared to some northeastern governors. New Jersey governor, definitely more powerful on that front. But what the Virginia legislature can do is basically pass different legislation to say that we are no longer complying to these standards, we're complying to our own standards. So what they can do is repeal what we previously had and put something in there that creates our own guidelines based on what Virginia's needs are.
Do you, and this is just, do you keep this in your back pocket? Are you aware of other states in and around Virginia that are also tied to this California bullcrap?
I haven't done a ton of research in terms of regionally, but I do know that there's a lot of other states that have followed on to this nationally. I have a friend who is involved in Vermont politics. I know that they're tied into this as well. States like Colorado, states like Arizona is even considering this, although they haven't done it yet, right? But there are states across the country that are looking to California and New York both to set their emission standards. And, where we have Democrat legislatures in control at the state level, they're working to tie their states that might be more conservative than that, generally speaking, to California's legislation so that it's easier for legislators to, pass that by without voters knowing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, on that note, I'm thankful that you raised that awareness. I'm going to send this clip far and wide because I think a lot of people are very unaware of that. You have everyday Americans who tune into this show. You have kitchen table discussions. You have mom and dads who just want to get through the day, put food on the table, make sure they have gas in their tank, and make sure their kids are actually educated properly and not indoctrinated with woke culture. So, I sit there and say, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for raising the bar on that, because we're just 3 hours away from the state of Virginia. What does North Carolina look like? And then I sit here and say, grew up in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is under a communist regime, as I sit here and say. And so what are they doing with that aspect of it, following in New York standards or following California standards? So there is a lot to be talked about and more on that issue. I'd love to have you come back. What is your election for this great opportunity, and what can we do to support you?
Yeah, so my election for Young Republican National Chair is August 16th through 20th in Dallas, Texas. We have a convention. There's about 1,000 delegates from across the country that are Young Republicans that get together to elect our next slate of leaders. So if you're interested in supporting me, feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and feel free to check out our website, yrnfascend.com. So that's yrnfascend.com. You can read our platform. You can look at the members of my team that we've announced, and you can look at what we'd like to do with the Young Republican National Federation. So we'd love to have your support.
Oh, thank you. I have your Twitter account going at the bottom. It's been scrolling at the bottom the whole time you've been on this interview. So for all those who are tuning in here at Common Sense America, make sure you hop over to Twitter. If you're not a Twitter follower, if you're not on the Twitter platform, have no fear. We will share everything with you of what Jesse is doing, just because of how important it is for everyday Americans to understand what is happening in their nation's backyard so they can talk about it more intelligently at their kitchen table. So Jesse, I am so proud of what you're doing. I'm so excited to see what God has in store for you next. And I cannot wait to have you back. So keep us up to date on how things are going, and we will stay tuned for that as well. So for all those who are tuning in here at Common Sense America, thank you so much for joining us this Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. We have Barry Morgenstein, the famous New York City photographer who is conservative, who loves God, country, and family. You do not want to miss it. Join us here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Until then, have a great Thursday.
Thanks, Eden.